In the past, on a remote island in the Sado region, there was a mammal walking on the soles of its feet, like a bear, 0.70 centimeters long, 20 kilograms weight, in a cave, often found in the forests of Asia. Named Dang Exa Buro, Densaburo. Among the animals that live on this island, it is a highly prized animal, because it is not only agile and majestic, but also very wise. It even has the talent to transform into anything it likes, and in this area alone it is already a champion. Dang Exa Buro lives happily on the island. It lives comfortably with things that no one in the Sado region has. But over time, living in this situation forever became sad. Then one day he thought to himself, I am number 39. Am famous. No one on this island can compare to me. But maybe in some places in this kingdom there are people who are talented. Better than us in some aspects. I am number 39. Am still young, so Don and number 39. Forget that I need to learn a lot more. So it decided to travel everywhere. Even if there is nothing new in this world to learn, at least it can discover how many people everywhere live. That decision was made, so soon people saw the beloved badger traveling around the country. Of course, he has heard many interesting stories, but he has not yet found the master that everyone talks about. One day, while walking through a dark forest and wondering which way to go, he suddenly met a. The fox greeted him politely, one person greeted him, the other greeted him back, and then the fox asked the badger where he was going and what he was doing. I am number 39. A badger Dang Exa Buro on Sado Island. I Don and number 39. Have any clear purpose. I only travel around Japan to gain more knowledge. Oh, so you are Mr. Dang Exa Buro, a famous badger on Sado Island. The fox shouted excitedly. I am number 39. They heard people talk about you a lot. The fox leaned even lower. The badger was very pleased. He asked the fox where he was going and what he was doing. I am the Hang Exa Buro fox in Oha province. My purpose of going is just as fast. In my hometown, I could N and #39. Find anyone worthy of learning more. So I left hoping to meet wise men of the same race to learn new things. Luckily, I happened to meet you here again. It was truly a coincidence. Oh, Mr. Hanza Buro, Hanzaboro, from Oha province, the badger replied, then also bowed very low. He is famous not only among his relatives, but we badgers also often respectfully remember his name. On my travels, I often heard his name mentioned, so now I feel very happy to know him. The badger and the fox congratulated each other very politely for a while, then discussed many important matters, and finally agreed to show each other their talents. Only then can both of them witness each other and number 39's talent firsthand, and confirm who is the great master. They agreed that whoever transformed something that the other person didn't and #39 recognize would be the winner. That person is the great teacher of the entire country. Do you see that temple in the distance? The fox asked the badger. Let and number 39's go there. On the way there, we show off our transformation skills to see who can do it best. Having agreed, the two animals parted ways. The fox immediately ran away, and a moment later it disappeared. The badger slowly followed behind. After a while it left the forest, following a road running through rice fields leading to a village. It looked around intently, but didn't and #39 see anything suspicious. The fox must have gone straight to the temple. There are always visitors there, he can easily avoid them. Suddenly I saw on the side of the road a wooden statue of Saint Dixo. Jisso. The saint is carved in a meditating position, his legs crossed, his hands resting on his knees, his head shaved, and his benevolent eyes looking out at the scene ahead. Badger thought to himself, "This statue must have been carved by a master like that." It and number 39. Been a long time since I and number 39. They seen a sophisticated sculpture without a single ripple. I should take out a handful of rice to make an offering, asking the saint to bless me on my journey safely. And quat. When the badger opened, he took out a rice grater and placed it at the foot of the saint and number 39's statue. Then he respectfully bowed before the statue, muttering a prayer. But to his surprise, when he raised his head, the rice grater had disappeared. He was surprised and said to himself, "That and number 39's strange. When did the saint receive offerings so quickly? Perhaps the wind blew the offerings away." And quat. But I still could n and #39 find it. It sniffed the ground everywhere around it, and the rice was still lost. And quat. Perhaps the rice grater has already rolled under some cave. If we want the saint and number 39's blessing, we have to offer another rice grater. And quat. He took out another basket of rice from the bag, placed it on the pedestal right under the saint and number 39's feet, then prayed sincerely again. When he raised his head, he saw the second rice basket had also disappeared. How strange! The badger thought to himself, and because he wanted to know the truth, since he was a wise master that must be it, he took out the third squeeze. But this time it paid attention to squeezing rice. It squeezed rice in front of the statue and bowed its head to pray. But it and number 39's just pretending. It pretended to be focused on praying but still glanced at the statue. Then suddenly it raised its head, just as the statue was eating rice. The badger grabbed the hand of the holy statue, and at the same time, the statue turned into a fox. "You did it well, Mr. Fox," said the badger, admiring him. "I spent 3 times squeezing rice, but in the end, because of greed for food, you broke your plate." According to this case, it is impossible to determine who wins and who loses. Although at first the badger was fooled. And it took the badger several times to realize the hoax. It even took the badger and number 39's greedy fox to discover it. After that, the fox said, "Mr. Deng Exa Burro, the matter of the statue is just child and number 39's play to me. I and number 39'll show you a transformation trick that and number 39's much more difficult than this. Do you see the village in front of us? Okay, now pay attention, we and number 39's LLC." Having finished speaking, the fox disappeared. The badger walked towards the village, and in the distance he saw something happening, for all the people were hurrying in that direction. "What a number 39's going on? Where are these people going? We must come and see." The badger followed the villagers, but to avoid being noticed, it turned into a walking monk. All the villagers gathered along the path leading to the temple. It and number 39's true that something important has happened. A wedding group is on its way. The bride sits on a splendid palanquin covered with red curtains. The parents of both sides followed wearing beautiful, brilliant black silk kimonos, with beautifully embroidered family crests on the sleeves and horses. A whole group of servants followed the palanquin, carrying bowls containing offerings. Everyone seemed excited and happy, because there hadn't and #39 been such a beautiful wedding in the village for a long time. Perhaps this is the wedding of a rich, very rich family. Our Mr. Deng Exa Buro transformed into a monk and jostled into the curious crowd to watch. Suddenly, a young monk pulled the monk and number 39's sleeve and respectfully said, "You must have just come from far away, because I have never seen you in this temple. Do you want to go to the temple to rest a bit?" The novice led the fake monk into the temple. At that time, the wedding had just arrived in front of the temple. The bride stepped down from the palanquin, and as she passed through the temple door, a basket of rice used as an offering rolled before her feet. The bride then quickly bent down to pick up the rice grater, and just as she was about to grab the rice grater gasped and said, "I have won." At that moment both the wedding party and the priest disappeared. Only the fox and the badger remained standing before the temple threshold. The two quickly ran away immediately, for fear that the villagers would know that they had created this wedding scene and they would immediately kill them. When they reached the edge of the forest, they both dared to stop, exhausted and out of breath. After resting and regaining strength after a long run, the badger said, "Hey, Mr. Heng Exa Buro, this wedding is not so bad, but you have not measured yourself." He was just a small animal, but he wanted to turn it into a big wedding with so many people, so he made a serious mistake. Perhaps he did not pay attention to the clothes of the people carrying the palanquin behind. Their clothes left out a piece of fox tail. That and number 39's why he was exposed. Tomorrow, it and number 39's my turn to show you magic. I chose the place to compete for my talents at the temple located between the two furthest villages, because the people of the neighboring villages already know us, and they won and number 39's leave us alone. Tomorrow, go to the road leading to the designated village temple. You will see me making a procession for the king, a procession you have never seen before. Please pay attention. I promise you one and number 39's recognize me. It was hard for Heng Exa Buro to believe this badger. Make a procession to the king. Turning into a small crowd of people is fine, but turning into a procession for the king? Does the badger not know how many people a procession like this must create? Okay, I agree that badgers are a bit bigger than foxes. But can it turn into a procession for the king? No way, this is too much work. The badger contemptuously raised his hand to refute all those comments, saying, "Tomorrow you just go to the designated place and you will see." All afternoon the fox kept thinking about this. Even though he could N and #39 believe the badger, he was still afraid. Finally he said to himself, "A royal procession would be very long and the badger cannot come from far away in a transformed state. So it will come here and perform magic on the spot. If I arrive on time, I and number 39's know what it turns out to be." And quat. That night the fox slept little, because he was afraid he would wake up at noon tomorrow. When the sun rose, the fox was already on the road leading to the temple, located between the two furthest villages. He hid in a bush and looked around to see the badger coming. But the sun had been high for a long time. The birds were singing. Sometimes farmers carrying baskets on their backs passed by, but he still could n/39 t see the badger anywhere. Noon came, the sun was hot, the birds had stopped singing for a long time, and all the animals were looking for a cool place to hide. Suddenly, the fox heard the sound of horse feet coming from afar. Then from afar, the fox saw a procession appear, majestic, approaching the place where he was hiding. "Is that the badger?" the fox wondered, hesitating because he could n/39 t believe it. Does it dare to walk a long way under the hot sun? But going in a state that transforms into a difficult procession like this? The fox immediately transformed into a farmer so he could observe the scene more easily. What a beautiful and majestic procession! Many servants went first to clear the way, and then came 4 beautiful stallions. On their backs were 4 majestic warriors, fully armed, with solemn and immobile faces. The fox thought to himself, "This must be a real king and his entourage. How can a badger transform in such a majestic and beautiful scene?" The scene made such a deep impression on the fox that he bowed as if he were a real peasant standing on the side of the road to make room for the king to pass. It stood still as if watching the parade approaching. Immediately afterwards, the lacquer palanquin passed. The king was sitting on the comfortable palanquin. The people carrying the palanquin walked carefully so as not to disturb the king. Following the palanquin were 4 warriors, fully armed, followed by their entourage in neat ranks, close together. They were all majestic military mandarins, each wearing 2 swords. In short, this was a procession so majestic and impressive that the fox did not dare to breathe. With his head bowed low, he waited for the last warrior to pass. Suddenly the procession disappeared. In front of the fox was Dang Exa Buro. He smiled arrogantly and said to the fox, "Mr. Fox, you can brush off the dust. Why are you so respectful towards an ordinary badger like me?" The fox was shocked and angry because the badger had deceived him. But the badger had already told it what it would transform into. Infamy! Too angry, the fox challenged the badger. "Mr. Dang Exa Buro, you will see. I will prove that I am no worse than you. If you come to the same place tomorrow, you will see a more beautiful royal procession than this. You will remember the magic of Hang Exa Buro for the rest of your life." The next day, the badger got up very early, went to the designated place, climbed the tree to wait for the procession. He believed that the fox would try his best to make a small procession for the king, but it would all go wrong. Perhaps it would be easy for the fox to find this loophole, so it calmly waited until he heard the sound of horse feet echoing from afar. But even from afar, it felt that this procession was not small. Before the procession were servants clearing the way, then came majestic warriors, a total of 16 people, all riding beautiful stallions and traveling in pairs. They carried a palanquin painted in gold and embroidered with silk curtains. In the palanquin, the king sat leaning against soft, comfortable cushions. Behind the palanquin were 16 more warriors, riding beautiful ponies, followed by a group of warriors, each carrying 2 precious swords. Is this the work of a fox? We have to consider carefully. The badger thought to himself, and before the group reached his level, the badger immediately transformed into a fighter and stood on the side of the road. with a very respectful attitude. It stood with its head down, but still kept its eyes on this magic trick. When the king and number 39's entourage came before his eyes, he laughed and ran after the king and number 39's palanquin. Arriving at the palanquin, he lifted the silk curtain covering the palanquin and said, "Mr. Fox, this kind of work is beyond your strength. Even if your procession is not bad, the last warrior will be the last one. Yours has already poked his tail out under his cloak. What a number 39's happening is so strange." The king was furious, and all the warriors jumped at him with their swords. If the badger had an and #39 quickly turned back into a badger to easily slip under their feet and escape, it would probably have been killed by the boxers. Because the fox was convinced that he could not make such a procession, he turned the tip of the sword sticking out from under the warrior and number 39's cloak to look like a tail. Because this wedding is truly a procession for the king. Yesterday, while the fox waited for so long, he heard the farmers talking to each other that the next day there would be a big ceremony at the village temple, and the king would come to attend this ceremony. The fox was angry because he had failed. He wanted revenge on the badger, so he set a trap to trick the innocent badger. When the badger ran into the forest, it screamed to vent its anger, because it had just become the victim of such a cruel and despicable trick. Fortunately, the fox had disappeared somewhere, but if the two met again, they would probably no longer have the same friendly harmony as before. A few days later, when the badger and number 39's wounds had healed, he returned to Exadu Island, because the fox had made the badger completely lose all interest in traveling. As if to punish Hang Exa Buro and #39's evil scheme, the badger expelled all the foxes from the island. And that and number 39's why you can and number 39's find any foxes on Exadu Island, even if you use a magnifying glass to look for them. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.